Hello, it is Wednesday, and today, what I want to share with you are three keys to being able to handle anything that life throws at you. So it doesn't matter, if we're talking business, we're talking relationships. There are a few key things that we can do that will help us handle any situation. And that's what I want to share with you today. Just let me make sure I'm coming through in the Facebook group. If you're catching me over on LinkedIn or YouTube and you are new to me, my name is Penny. I'm a board certified hypnotist. I am a spiritual guide, and I was in healthcare for 25 years, 15 of that in anesthesia. And I left that world because I can have a much more profound impact helping people from the inside out. So, the three keys to handling whatever life throws at you. Um, this a lot of this comes from my own personal journey and how I have managed to come to a place in my life where the majority of the time I do not get triggered. I have learned to identify places where I have attachments, and being aware of those attachments and where they show up allows us to dismantle beliefs and expectations and things which create frustration, anger, sadness in our life. They can create fear in our life. And it is a process that allows us to um, be in our authenticity, to be detached. And when I say detached, I don't mean not caring or having compassion. When I say detached, detached means to be an objective observer. So we can have kindness, compassion, love, and care for other people, and at the same time to be detached. And one of the things that I've had to learn to detach from is my needing to know why when I have certain experiences in life. Because when we have a need to know why, we're committing ourselves to the past. And when we're solution focused, when we're growth mindset, when we're looking forward, we're moving forward, we want to grow and evolve, then why becomes a very limiting question. So there are three keys to being able to handle whatever life throws at you. Now, they're not every step you're going to take, but these are three key steps to help you to be able to look at a situation and move through it without getting caught up in habits, without reacting and ending up in a situation where we feel like we're out of control. So, the first step, anytime something happens, and this comes off of awareness. If you know me at all, I talk a lot about awareness. Awareness gives us a buffet of choice, and that's truly what it does. But the first thing that we want to do when we recognize that we have been triggered, or someone has, or a situation has struck a chord deep inside of us, right? It has triggered an emotional response inside of us, or we begin to react. So, you'll hear some people say that when, old Joe over there, he flies off the handle. Well, that's a reaction, right? That's more than just anger. That's a reaction. Sometimes we can react in different ways. Sometimes our reaction will be to hide, to pull back, to pull away. And we do those things without even thinking, right? The key is to, through that awareness, when we recognize that is happening, to pause. Unless you are in a situation where you are in true life or limb danger, take a moment and pause and just breathe. And in that moment of space, allow yourself to have a little bit of separation in that pause. Okay, so what that does when we give ourselves permission to pause, it begins to break the habit of reacting. It begins to break the habit of allowing our thoughts and emotions to begin to take over in the moment of a trigger. Now, people like to talk about personal development being the work. This is one of those places where sometimes it does feel a little bit like work, which is why it's called the work, right? So, in that moment, take the pause, step back, breathe. Then ask yourself, what am I feeling? Because if we're having a trigger, and that trigger, we may recognize it as something physical, like pulling back, stepping away, suddenly feeling, maybe you're in a group of people and something happens, and then all of a sudden you have this overwhelming sense, I have to get out of here, right? So it may not feel like a feeling at first, it might be an action. I have to get out of here. Breathe, pause, and ask yourself, okay, what is causing me to feel like I have to get out of here? Sometimes, and this is something that I do, if I end up and I find that I'm in a toxic environment, I will absolutely remove myself from that situation just because I choose to not be in that energy. But when it is a trigger, when it is a reaction, is there an underlying emotion there? You might ask yourself, what is causing me to feel like I need to leave? You might find that there's a fear under there. Maybe someone started talking about something that has brought up a past emotional experience for you. When these triggers happen, when these reactions happen, they're showing us something that we can take care of within ourselves and begin to unravel so that doesn't happen anymore. Sometimes people can say something to us and it triggers us, and we're like, I can't believe they said that. Well, maybe it's not what they said, it could be what they said, but it's more the meaning that we put on it, what it means to us that they said what they said. And I mean, we could just really go down a whole rabbit hole of different situations where things could come into play. Maybe when somebody says something to you that's not nice, maybe the actual trigger is that you're angry with yourself that you didn't hold a boundary that you previously put in place, right? So when we have that trigger or reaction, that next question is so important. What causes me to feel blank? What causes me to feel triggered? What causes me to feel like I have to take myself out of the situation? What causes me to feel like I need to lash out? If you're someone who's dealing with anger issues and you work very hard to manage that anger, when you know what it is that you're feeling, you can then ask yourself, is this really true? So, for example, if you feel like you need to get out of the room and there's something, a part of you saying, it's not safe to be in here, they're going to judge me. And it's like, well, yeah, everybody makes judgments all the time. People are going to judge us all the time. But underneath that, what else is going on, right? Is there a fear of not being good enough? And it's like, well, is that true? Well, of course not. That's not true. We're all worthy. We're all lovable. We're all good enough. And when you recognize that that's what's underneath the feeling, what causes me to feel this way, then we can immediately begin to reframe it. Now, if someone is being abusive to us, and it's like, this doesn't feel safe, this is not fair, then by all means leave the situation, right? I mean, what I'm sharing with you is not some rainbows and unicorn approach to life. We have to take each situation individually for what it is. But the majority of the time, for most of us, these triggers and these reactions, they're based on past experiences, and the emotions that we're feeling are not based in the present moment. They're based on something that happened before, and our brain is literally just throwing it up as a warning sign. And when we recognize that, we can reframe that situation, and we can feel like we have more of a sense of control in that situation. Now, when you have this information, what am I feeling? What's causing me to feel this way? If we identify what's causing us to feel this way and we recognize that, oh, this isn't true, then the answer is the reframe, right? The answer is the reframe to tell our little ego mind that, you know what, it's safe. We don't have to worry about this. Like, this is not a problem. We're just overreacting, right? And then later, if you choose, you can address it, unpack it, dismantle whatever's underneath the surface, and let it go and leave it behind. But if the feeling is legitimate, if you say you're standing, this is an example I use in my hypnosis certification trainings because it's a pretty um, straightforward example, and it's something that could happen to any one of us. Say that you're out in the parking lot at your car, or maybe if you live in the city, you're at the bus stop, or whatever the case may be. And let's say that you just got paid and you've cashed your check, and your money is in your wallet, and your wallet is in your purse, and you're standing there or you're walking along, and somebody runs up to you and they snatch your purse. Now, that immediate feeling is going to be one of shock. And then the next feeling might be anger, right? Because that wasn't fair. Someone took something that did not belong to them. So, in that moment, and people say, oh, well, I would be afraid. Well, some people might be afraid. But remember, when we go into survival mode, it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And anger is the fight response of fight or flight. So, we might have that anger in that moment. You have a reason to be angry. Someone violated your personal space. They took what was yours. Now, if you want to speak from a spiritual perspective to attachments, then there's just like a whole other aspect of it where we actually could be in a space where we don't even have anger. We bless and release. But for most people, we're not to that level yet. And with all the spiritual work I've done, I think I would probably be pretty pissed if somebody snatched my purse and it had my money in it, right? So it's unfair. Unfair generates an emotion of anger. There are three ways to handle that emotion. I've done a podcast, I've actually done a couple of podcast episodes on this because repressed anger was something that really influenced my path in my journey to where I am here. I'm not going to recapitulate that in this video. There's a podcast episode about that too. You can actually go to the most recent one. I think it's episode 155, where I tell my story of how I got to where I am, and repressed anger played a huge part of that. So we want to address our emotions in a healthy way. And I'm using anger as an example here. Somebody snatched purse. It's really unfair. You're angry. Our emotions are telling us something that we need to do to correct a situation when that emotion is based on an accurate perception. Now, if I was standing at the bus stop and somebody walked past me and they were looking at their phone and they weren't paying attention and they simply accidentally bumped into me and I got angry, that anger would not be based in accurate perception. Okay, that would be a pure reaction and just would not be appropriate, right? That's not the appropriate emotion to feel there. But in the sense of something that's truly unfair, there are three things that we can do with anger once we know it's based in accurate perception. The first thing we can do is we could literally have a conversation with someone and say, you know what? I need you to know that when you did this, it made me feel. And let's talk it through. Now, at the same time, you have to be unattached from them giving you an apology. If you talk something through with someone and you're attached to them giving you an apology and they don't, you're going to be even more angry. It's more about letting someone know how you feel, and then you can choose to set a boundary there. Well, somebody snatched your purse. There's no boundary to be had, and they probably ran off and dumped your purse in a dumpster somewhere after they got your wallet out of it with the cash and the cards and all the things. You're not going to be having this conversation with them unless they get caught by the police and then you testify against them. That would be how that naturally plays out next. The second thing you could do is you could forgive the person. Now, I'm probably going to have to do a live stream on forgiveness because it is this whole huge thing. But in a nutshell, forgiveness is not about the other person. Forgiveness is about giving yourself permission to move into a state of acceptance that something happened. Not that you accept what happened, but you are in a state of acceptance around that this thing did happen, right? Because you know what they say, it's water under the bridge. You can't unring the bell, it's already done. That's what I mean by forgiveness. You give yourself permission to let it go because you are the only person who can choose whether or not you allow an experience that made you angry eat you up. So that's what forgiveness is about, choosing to not allow something to consume you. And pushing down emotions is not the same as forgiveness. It's just not. The third thing we can do is you can take that and you can channel it into something constructive. So some people will take anger, and anger is their fuel to move forward. They need that anger, or they have the perception they need that anger to keep them moving forward. It becomes a part of their identity. That's not what I mean. When I talk about using that experience that made you angry to do something constructive, is that maybe, you know, you have your purse snatched and you're like, you know what? This doesn't need to happen to anyone else again. Like, maybe a police officer who came to take the report of your purse being stolen. And this police officer tells you, it's like, hey, there are ways that without being so obvious, you can actually be aware of your surroundings. And if the people who are going to commit the crime see you engaging in these certain behaviors, they're going to know that you're paying attention and you are much less likely to be a target. Okay. So maybe you decide, I'm going to go learn more about this. So you go take a women's self-defense course and you learn about awareness and you decide that you want to bring this to the community, and you raise awareness so that other women are no longer a target. And that would be a way that you take that experience and you use that anger to basically do something to say, you know what, you may have gotten me that time, but I'm not going to allow this to happen again. I am taking control of the situation. I'm exercising my personal power, my ability to choose, and I'm going to put myself in a position where this doesn't happen again. Other emotions have other appropriate responses, but all you need to do is ask yourself is, what do I need to do to satisfy this feeling? You might be feeling a sense of loss. You might be feeling alone. You might be feeling guilt. You might be feeling bored. And a lot of times people think they're bored and they're not really bored. That's probably something for a whole other live as well. because a lot of times we can't stand to sit still and we're like, oh my God, I need something to do. I'm bored. No, you're not bored. Your brain is distracting you away from having to to sit um, with your own self. But those are the three things that will help, three keys that will help you to begin to handle any situation, because what these things do is they help you to train your brain to not be ruled by your emotions. And when you're not ruled by your emotions, you can make decisions with clarity. You can have more peace in your life. You can have more calm, and you can recognize where your attachments are. It'll help you to recognize limiting beliefs. It will help you to recognize where your identity is actually controlling your life instead of you being in control of your life or in control of your choices and your interpretations around life. So, anyway, I would love to know your thoughts. I keep looking out the window because there are dogs racing past my window out there. I have to go make sure they're not in the pool, which I don't think they would be. It's kind of cold, but you just never know, right? Um, I have a couple of spots open for one-on-one. If you're interested in more details of what that would look like, you can just DM me. It's easier to reach me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm not over here on LinkedIn that often. I probably check in like once a week, but Instagram at penny.chason or on Facebook, Penny Chason. You'll see me there. Just DM me and I'll be happy to have a chat with you around what that looks like. Hope you all are having a lovely week wherever you are, and I will see you next Wednesday.